Now, Jesse Lee Peterson, founder of an organization called Brotherhood of a New Destiny. I read his book called From Rage to Responsibility, about how he, as a young black man, was full of anger and then matured and evolved. He's also the founder of Bond Leadership Academy, a private school in L.A. He's a radio talk show host, speaker, and also counselor. His email address is bond, B-O-N, like James Bond, bond@bondinfo.org. And his website is called rebuildingtheman.com. Please welcome to the show Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time.
Larry, thank you for having me on. I absolutely appreciate it.
Now, before I ask you a few questions, I want to say something about how I met Jesse. Jesse, I can't remember who put the two of us together. Maybe you do. I don't. I've known you over 20 years.
I know.
But I visited your place one time, and I'm walking through Jesse Peterson's house, and I see this man laying on a couch. And the man did not look like the best dressed man I've ever seen. And I'm walking through his house. I see another man laying on a bed. And I said, Jesse, who are these people? And Jesse told me these are homeless people that he literally had taken in off the street and put in his home and was trying to turn their lives around. I mean, who does that? I mean, we all contribute money, at least most of us do, to the homeless, but who actually invites people who are homeless into their home to try to counsel them spiritually and turn them around, except for people like Jesse Lee Peterson? You're an amazing guy, Jesse.
Well, I thank God for it. Thank you, Larry. I thank God for it. You know, Bond has been around now for 26 years this past February, and we have been rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I believe that if we could get men, especially black men, we work with all men, but the focus is on the black man. If we could get him to turn back to God and love what's right, and if they want a family, get married, and husbands and wives or fathers and mothers guide their children by good examples, we can turn America around overnight. Because I realize that black Americans are not suffering due to racism at all. It's the destruction of the family and a turning away from God. And so we need to get that done, and we have been able to do an excellent job, thank God, over the last 26 years without one dime from the government.
Well, Jesse Lee, we're going to talk about the Antidote and what you've been doing and your prescription and analysis of what's going on. But first, I want to talk about you. What's brought you to this point? Tell us who Jesse Lee Peterson is. Where are you from? Tell me about your family. Tell me what brought you to Los Angeles.
Well, I grew up in Alabama, on a plantation down in Alabama. I grew up under the Jim Crow laws. I had to work the cotton fields. The boys were taken out of school twice a year to plant the crop and to bring it in. And I remember going to a movie theater once, Larry, and the blacks had to sit upstairs. We were not in the balcony. We were not allowed to sit downstairs with white Americans. I remember the colors only sign, the white only. But not one time did my grandparents, because that's who raised me, teach us to hate white folks. They said that if we treat people the way we would like to be treated and work hard and save our money, we can make it in America, and that's what they did. I was not raised with my father because he got my mother pregnant when he was very young, and he wouldn't marry her. And during those days, it was an embarrassment to be pregnant out of wedlock, so my mother married my stepfather before I was born. And long story short, as a kid, I wanted my real father. I didn't want a stepfather. I yearned for my real dad. I had that void inside of me, and I would ask my mother about him, and she would say negative things about him, that he wasn't any good, forget about him. And so I became angry at her for keeping me away from my father. And as you know, when you become angry at someone, you're judging them, and when you judge, you'll be judged. So my life went to hell in a handbasket. I moved out to L.A. at the age of 18, and I was very emotional. I had a lot of doubt and fear because I had that emptiness there for my dad. I realized one day that my anger for my father and mother was holding me back in life, and I ended up smoking marijuana, doing drugs and things like that because I had such a empty feeling inside of me, and nothing else could fulfill it. So when I realized that my anger was coming from resenting my parents, I went to them and apologized because God said that when you forgive others, he will forgive you. And so I went to my mother and I told her that I resented her, and I told her why. And she apologized. She didn't realize she had done that to me. And she told me exactly what she did to me had happened to her. And I had never heard that before. But I have to tell you, when I forgave my mother and my father, God forgave me, and he gave me perfect peace in my soul. My soul was fulfilled. And I don't have a void anymore, that emptiness. I feel 100% completed or whole. And that's why I started Bond, because I realized that this anger and this emptiness that most blacks are feeling starts in the home. It doesn't start with white people. It starts with the weakness of the parents.
Jesse Lee, what gave you the epiphany? Did you meet somebody? Did you read some book? Did you hear some speech? What caused you to reevaluate your life?
Well, I have to honestly tell you that I heard a Jewish preacher say, I happened to have the radio on, and I heard him say that when you pray, be still and know God, and that we needed to forgive. But I didn't understand what he meant, so I went home and I sat very quietly in my room, and I asked God to let me see what was wrong with me, and he revealed to me that it was the anger that I had for my parents that was holding me back in life. And so he literally revealed it to me, and when he showed it to me, Larry, I felt so sad. There was a sadness I had never experienced before, because I realized it was wrong for resenting my parents, and I also realized that resenting them was hurting me and not them. And so when I forgave them, it just made me free. And I do want to tell you this. It's so nice, because once I forgave my father and my mother started calling me and asking me to help with the other children to show them how to overcome their anger. My father and I became one. It's like my father and I developed a father and son relationship. That void that I had was completely gone. It was as though I got my identity back. And my father expired this past January of this year. And when he died, he has Alzheimer's disease, so he died from that. But when he died, it feels as though he did not die. And I was glad for him that he was physically not suffering anymore. But because we had become one, father and son, it feels as though my father is still with me.
My guest is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. The book is called The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. We're going to take a quick break, Jesse Lee. We'll be right back. His website is rebuildingtheman.com. His email address is bond@bondinfo.org, bond as in James Bond. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. Please don't leave town. We're just getting warmed up, Reverend.